Hello, this is Boyd Brody, General Manager at Key Cooperative. This is your key news and two for October. First, I just wanted to update the members on harvest and then our disaster recovery. So as far as harvest goes, about 3 weeks into it here in early October, pretty well through the beans. We're about 85 to 90% harvested. I think we'll see some additional trickle in here over the next week or two. Corn harvest, we're about 15 to 20% into corn harvest, what there will be of corn harvest. Certainly a lot of our severely damaged areas and geographies, we've got a lot of released fields that won't be harvested this year, and a lot of guys out that are combining, trying to pick it up, certainly a struggle. We know those farmers and member owners are working through it the best they can. It's definitely a chore, and fixing and keeping things going. So we're here pretty much 7 to 7 at the facilities, receiving grain. And if you've got some needs or situations to move stuff away from the field or something like that, let us know. Certainly after the storm, back on August 10th, we've had just a really heroic effort by our employee group. Can't say enough about the job that they've done, putting their shoulder into getting the cleanup done in a safe manner and making sure the facilities are operable and functional at the facilities that were severely impacted by the derecho. And I did want to give you guys an update on that. I know back on the 20th of August, about 10 days after, we gave you a little idea of what to expect and had some member meetings. Those went extremely well, and I can't say enough about our members being patient and working with us at those facilities, locations, and being willing to move product to other locations that have more receiving capacity. And certainly we're turning the corner now into corn, and that gets a little busier, a little higher volume. The pace is still pretty slow in those heavily affected areas as they're trying to pick it up a lot of times one direction, but overall, the weather's been really conducive, so we haven't had quality issues on the down corn. Most of it's been in extremely good samples. It's been running, gosh, anywhere from about 13 to 16%, a little elevated from that in some areas, but the grain quality has been excellent unless it's in a zone that receives some hail, and that's a different story on the beans and the corn. Yields across the board, I'd say in the Story County area have been at or even a little above what we had last year. And as we move to the southeast, I'd say even to up to 5 to 10 bushels below what we saw last year, with some phenomenal yields down in that southern area. On the corn side, obviously all over the board. Certainly I think the drought was a little further along than a lot of us realized until the derecho kind of laid some of the fields open, and we could see the impact that it had already had. We thought we had some, 220, 30, 40 bushel corn out there, and we do in places, but there's a lot of places that isn't the case. And certainly the guys out trying to pick it up and the ears that they're able to bring in safely, reasonably, that are mechanically harvestable has been an issue. And to that, I'm going to switch over here to share my screen to do a little better job covering this. There we go. So yesterday we did have a meeting in Nevada, thanks to Julie Kenny and Mike Nag, our Secretary of Ag, for coming in and bringing in some of the officials from the RMA. So Jeremy Davis, who's one of our local guys, regional coordinator, and then also Martin Barbie. And he's out of DC and heads up RMA. So we had a nice chance to visit about some of the frustrations and challenges with this harvest, obviously with the insurance, the way things have been handled out in the field and some of the disparities out there, and looking for them to do all they can to make sure that as we move through this process, that we continue to see some improvements and make sure that the coverage is equitable across the board for all of our growers. So we'll follow up with those guys and continue to feed information to them and work with them. But Mike and Julie, awesome job as our Secretary of Ag and Deputy. They just really have the interest of our farmers and our ag businesses in mind, and they're great advocates for us. And ever since the disaster and even before with the drought, have really advocated and been working locally and federally in our interests. So just want to reach out to them on that. This is the disaster stuff and the derecho damage that I covered back on the 20th of August. And you can certainly see those photos. And we also wanted to really focus on the rebuild and the repair and getting ready for fall at our locations. So Kelly, one of the heavily affected ones, you can see we lost all but 2 of our bins at that facility and our grain flats and 1 leg. We did lose the dryer, the wet and dry leg, lots of smaller bins. And so you can see from essentially the 12th of August to the 8th of October, quite a bit of cleanup has been done on the site. And then beyond that, we've been able to get it into a functional location for harvest and received virtually as more beans than we've received to date in the last 3 years, because it came on pretty early as far as the bean harvest, and switching over to corn running ahead of normal as well. So they do have an overhead. We did move that around over to the other side to be serviced by the main receiving pits and leg, and got everything, all the flats got repaired, and we were able to fill the isolated bin there on the left with an auger with beans this year. So in pretty good shape. We're still hauling wet loads away from Kelly, but a lot of the corn coming in to date is certainly running pretty decent field dry, anywhere from, gosh, down 12.5% up through, 15, 16. So we're able to function pretty well at this point, and we'll see if we have wetter corn coming in later. Nevada, you can see at that location, we had 3 bins that were completely demolished and 1 that was isolated. We have been able to clear a lot of that space out, and this is a little bigger view. You can see the 1.5 million bushel circle pile, center air, center fill that we put in, and then extended this bunker in the middle. Put all new receiving through all the way to these piles, as well as these 2 450s on the east side of the flat. And the flat all has new conveyance going through that. We filled that with beans this fall, and we're putting corn out on one of the 450s right now, and we'll continue to do so as we've got limited vertical tank space. This bin right in this area is getting a roof put up now, and that'll be getting jacked in the coming weeks. And we'll get these other bins rebuilt as well on site. And we're looking to change our receiving and our pits and our legs going forward. And we'll share more information with you on that as that goes along. But all in all, very functional at Nevada for the most part of harvest. And then at Rollin here at S14, we lost the bean tank, tank number 1, and you can see the roof is on there, and they'll start jacking that this week. So this picture was from yesterday, and you can also see that we enlarged and put an asphalt surface out on about a 1 million bushel bunker directly west of our flat, which we did fill with beans this year. And that's been a really good process, and we've made some really good recovery at this location to date. Zeering, you can see the damage of the facility down in this lower picture. Really lost everything at the Zeering location, save 1 overhead and the pit, the covered pit. So we brought another overhead from Nevada and then put a grain pump in about 10,000 bushels an hour, fed that from the existing pit. And the Zeering crew has been phenomenal. Got a lot of the old material out of the way, and have been able to receive grain. We've hauled a lot away from the field, and then we've also been hauling away from these tanks because of the tractor and wagon business that we have is pretty significant in that area. So longer term, the directors have been very good to work with. We've identified, selected, and have a purchase offer on a 25-acre site just east of town. So you can see our existing facility still here, and then our anhydrous facility is down on this corner of town. We're looking at only a grain facility at this time to move a commercial grain operation out of town in that old railroad right of way, which is pretty narrow and really limited footprint and not much potential for growth long term. So you can see basically a layout of what a bin setup would look like out on this site, which is about 25 acres. And we'd have entry off a paved road within about a half mile of town. So this has been through the county to be rezoned from A1 to A2, and we're getting permits done so we can begin construction on driveways and roadways this fall and do some dirt work. LeGrand, again, a heavily damaged facility, about 2.2 million bushels lost space and a lot of conveyance, legs, dryers. This whole older complex near the office was all demolished. All that has been removed, as you can see in the new pictures or the updated pictures. And then you can see 4 90-foot tanks that were all demolished, and certainly some of the conveyance for those. Overhead was damaged slightly. The tower was tweaked. And then also we did salvage the dryer, the wet tank, and the leg that feeds that. So currently patched up the roof on the flat at LeGrand, and we're able to fill that with soybeans, put in a larger bunker, worked with our neighbors there, the Rollins, and they allowed us to put that facility in place for this fall. And we've got a 20,000 bushel an hour convey system, a drive over conveyor for filling that. And I know our plan is that by the end of the day today or tomorrow, definitely by Monday, we want to be able to put field dry corn out on that pile and be able to reserve and utilize the wet tank for wet corn at the LeGrand facility. That's the end of what I had, and just wanted to give the members an update on where we are for harvest, where we're at in the rebuild process. So appreciate your support and your patience going through this fall. We're certainly available and willing and able to help any way we can. And this is your key news in 2 for October.